All right, my Smite friends, we are going to do something a little different. I did this with the game Prophecy, if you're following me from that. And I haven't done this for Smite before, so it's kind of awkward that this is literally the last patch of Season 7, but we're going to go ahead and give it a shot, and we're going to continue this through all of Season 8. We just watched the update show on the Smite game channel, but my problem with that is they spend a lot of time focusing on things that nobody really cares about. So this is going to be a no BS run through of the update. We're just going to talk about balance changes, god changes, and that sort of thing. In this update, they introduced a new god. We're going to put that at the end because that's not going to be in every patch. So we'll put that at the end when it is in the patches. So this is the legendary Tanuki 7.12 update notes. We're going to skip the god here real quick. I don't care about the skins, honestly. You can look those up yourself if that's something that matters to you. But let's jump into some of the actual updates. So they did talk about in the patch notes show, and you might want to go watch this on Twitch. They have end of match lobby update where they've added some new details and information. You're going to be able to see a lot more information about how gods did during the game and gold per minute and that kind of thing. So that's pretty cool. But you can go look at that on Twitch. They also updated the kill streak timer. So we're going to be seeing a lot more pentakills now because there's like a 15-second period instead of 10 seconds that you can finish off the pentakill. I'm sure that's going to be met with some complaints. All right, straight into the items. They did not actually update any items. They updated they updated Hand of the Gods for the Clash map and stuff like that. So they didn't actually do much because this is the last patch of the season. They're trying not to change the meta too hard because they don't want to unbalance the World's Championship. So let's talk about the gods. The first god they updated was Ra. He's been super powerful in the meta. He's been banned and ranked. So they've updated his Solar Blessing with a bit of a nerf. They decreased the physical power, decreased the magical power, and they decreased the protections. So all of that is going to make Solar Blessing a little weaker than it is right now. I think he's still going to be played because the big buff to him was adding a slow immunity on his 2, and that has made him a lot more versatile in the mid lane. Erlang Shen has also seen a boost in play, especially in the jungle, so they nerfed him a little bit by increasing the mana cost on his 1, which is called Spot Weakness, and they decreased the base damage on it. Not a big deal. It probably means you won't update it as early as you might. Sometimes I like to update this first as my first ability, so you're probably not going to do that now with Spot Weakness. But they didn't change the scaling, so if you're still building power pen kind of build, you're not going to notice it too badly by the late game. Persephone has been a frustrating god to play against, and they've changed how her ult works. Now, so the way her ult works now is that you can literally shoot it until it hits something, and it'll go all the way across the map. If you have an open lane, it'll travel to the end of that lane until it hits a wall. And that can be frustrating because it's just as hard to destroy and get rid of if you get caught in that ult. So they've changed it where if it does not hit a person, if it does not hit an enemy god, and it just hits a wall, that cage that forms will only take 3 shots to destroy instead of 5. So if you hit a god, it'll still take 5 shots to destroy, but if you hit a wall, it only takes 3, which is great if you're caught in the tether and you need to get out. You can kill the cage and run away. Yomoja has gotten a nerf as well. They decreased the slow on Riptide from 30% to 20%, and they increased the countdown of her ult from 100 to 110 seconds. So she's not going to have her ult nearly as fast. She's not going to have as much CC, and that's good because she basically has infinite CC. Anyway, Sobek has also gotten a nerf, which makes me sad because I love Sobek in the support role. They are decreasing the base damage on his ult. Not a big deal, but his ult definitely hit like a truck. So there you go. Set, probably one of the most versatile gods in the game right now, used in just about every role. They increased the cooldown on his 1 from 8 seconds to 9 seconds. That doesn't seem like much, but it's already a really, really short cooldown. So increasing it at all is going to slow down his clear. The Morrigan has it's definitely a buff, but it's more like a quality of life change. when she uses her ult, she transforms into the enemy god. That means whatever she had on her previously is gone, and she takes on the items and the role of the god she changes into. And it up until now, the problem with that has been if you have like your speed buff on you or a red buff and you transform, you lose that buff. So they're fixing that. Now transforms any jungle buff or consumable potion effect she has currently active onto her transformed state in her ultimate. One of the keys to this was the speed pot. The new speed pot would go away when she transformed, so that will not be happening now. Zeus can now place his ability in locations over walls. Actually, that's the same for all of these. They changed it so these deployable things that aren't connected to you, right? It's not a line attack. It's a deployable that you're throwing out there can now be placed over a wall if necessary. So that works for Aegis Assault on Zeus, Ymir's Wall, Terra's Crushing Earth, which is the two stones that clap together. They can all be placed over walls. Bellona had a lot of changes. I guess they want to, bring her back into the meta, which I'm sure everybody will love. So Master of War is her passive, and that's going to have an increased duration from 4 seconds to 7 seconds. Her Shield Bash, which is her 1, is getting an increase from 5 to 7 seconds. And the reason for this was that if Bellona was in mid-swing, when the timer expires, she will complete the swing with her weapon instead of transferring back into the sword. Okay. If this hits a target, she will reset the timer and not swap back to her base weapon. And Eagle's Rally got a buff. Now Eagle's Rally will have both physical and magical power for allies that are inside the circle when she ults. So it's giving magical power from 35 to 75. It's increasing the physical power that you're going to get. And it's increasing how long the flag is going to last to 8 seconds. Which is actually kind of a nerf at the later upgrades, because it says that it was up to 10 seconds before. Now it's just going to be 8 seconds at all ranks, which means it's a buff early and a nerf late, but that's fine. Cthulhu is getting sort of, I don't know, a buff. I guess it's just a quality of life change, but basically, if you activate a relic like Thorns and then go into your ult, it's hard to see sometimes. So they're making it so this relics will be a lot more visible for all players. And it moves the effects towards the player camera, so Cthulhu's persistent effects can be more clearly seen. And it's important to note that they already nerfed him to the point where he can't actually activate these things while he's in his ult. So he actually has to pre-fire them and then go into his ult. But even then, it still was a visual bug, basically. And so they're changing that. Hell. So Hell has her stance attunement. It fixed an issue where her passive was only increasing healing from abilities in Fire Giant. Now should increase heals from all sources. Fixed an issue where her healing bonus wasn't properly ramping up over time with her passive meter. And fixed an issue where an unintended temp icon was being displayed on her buff bar. So basically in the recent patches, they kind of updated healing so that all healing affects all healing, even HP 5 and stuff like that, right? And I guess Hell kind of, missed the train. So they're fixing her, bringing her up to speed. Loki, they are increasing the final strike damage on his flurry strike and increasing the final strike scaling from 60 to 70%. Flurry strike is his 3. It's the ability. It's kind of his main attacking ability on the new Loki. But usually what you did was you build like Hydra's Element, and then you would just cancel this thing halfway through and use Hydra proc to get some more damage off. Now, with increasing that final strike and increasing the scaling, you're probably going to finish the ability a lot more often. Tyr has an increased assault stance power and increased defense stance protection. So this is his 3 on Tyr, where he, as you upgrade it, you're going to get more power or you're going to get more protections. So, sorry. So they're just kind of buffing that a little bit, which is great. Tyr needs a little bit of a buff. Ao Kwang, Dragon King's Sword, decreased the power-up time from 20 seconds to 12 seconds. And Dragon Call, this is a revert of a previous change. They're increasing the attack damage. Okay, so I was wondering why they made these changes, because these are buffs. I guess what they're saying is that he has fallen off recently. When Hecate, the Ring of Hecate, was powerful, he was back in the meta there for a while, and he's still fairly strong when played right. But I guess he just kind of fell off the map, so they're giving him some love. Sylvanas is increasing the base movement speed from 365 to 370, increasing base attack speed from 0.85 to 0.9, increasing base attack speed per level from 0.6 to 0.8. Well, that's pretty funny. I mean, these are definitely buffs for him, but they're not buffs to his utility or his healing or anything like that. It's buffs to his movement speed and his attack speed, which makes me think that we're going to see a lot more damage Sylvanas, a lot more Hunter Sylvanas, where he builds that attack speed stuff. I don't know, maybe. We'll see. But, that's interesting. Ardeo is also getting some changes. Her energy surge is getting a decreased mana cost. Her decompose is getting an increased duration of debuff from 4 seconds to 6 seconds. And shapeshift is getting an increased duration of buff from 4 to 6 seconds. So that's good. Because she's getting some love as well. I guess she has fallen off a little bit. She's still a pretty powerful god, and definitely that cripple field is ridiculous. So, anyway. Muzan Cobb getting some buffs. He's getting his increased base damage on his stinger and increased physical power scaling. So this was something they nerfed earlier, and I guess they're just bringing it back. Maybe they thought he was a little too strong before, but he's kind of fallen off with the current meta. So here we go. Apollo is getting increased damage on his So Beautiful, which is definitely going to help him. Apollo has definitely fallen off recently, and so has Artemis, the next god on this list. They are increasing the deploy range from 35 units to 40 units on Transgressor's Fate, which is the roots she places on the floor to trap people. That's important. The increased range is going to give her a lot more versatility, especially when she's combining this with her other abilities like her ult. If Tusky dashes farther away to ult somebody, sometimes she can't quite combo that stun with this root, and now she'll be able to do that a lot more. So that should be interesting. And that's an interesting way to buff her without buffing her damage and things like that. So it's good. Shock is getting his Storm Call is getting an increased damage mitigation from 50% to a scaling percentage that goes from 50 to 70%. So that's great. He's going to be able to take a lot more damage. That's what we need, is more shock. Apuash is getting several different buffs right here. I guess they're all buffs. Okay. Fixed an issue where boss monsters could kill Apuash's deployed corpses. Interesting. I mean, that's true for a lot of deployables like walls and cages and stuff. So it's interesting that they don't want the bosses to destroy corpses. But I guess that also kind of makes sense, because if they can destroy the corpses, then he's basically useless against those objectives. Anyway, here's his buffs. For Undead Surge, he's getting a decreased mana cost. For Corpse Explosion, a decreased mana cost. And for Fleeting Breath, a decreased mana cost. So he's not getting a buff to any damage or any new utility, but it's definitely going to not cost him as much to use those abilities, which means he can probably stay in the field a little bit longer, especially combined with his passive, which heals his mana. And that's it. There are no item changes in this patch. There's definitely a lot of god changes, but they're mostly small. Like I said, they're trying not to disrupt the world's meta too much. But there's definitely some of these that we're going to end up seeing a lot more of these gods, or a lot less of the ones that got nerfed. Keep an eye out for that. That should be interesting. Anyway, let's go over the new god. This is Danzaburou. Obviously, if you want to see him in action, you can watch the Smite game update notes show, because they show him in game doing his abilities and things like that. He is a hunter. He is based on the sort of the Japanese folklore of Tanuki. If you haven't heard of that, and you probably have in some way or another, even if it's just like the Tanuki suit from Mario. Like it's a pretty big thing in Japan. So anyway, let's talk about his passive. It's called Dubious Savings. Every time Danzaburou actively gains gold, he stores 10% into one of his money pouches instead. When a pouch is completely filled, he gains bonus gold and a permanent physical power increase before switching to a larger money pouch. Okay. So he can have pouch gold from 80 to 300. He gets bonus power for each new pouch of 10 per pouch. And he gets bonus gold from 180 to 500 for each pouch, which is definitely interesting. That bonus gold can be really big when you're playing him in the dual lane in Conquest. It could mean the difference between completing an item and not completing an item. So that'll be interesting to see how that works. And it'll be interesting to see who can push that advantage, right? When you're able to finish an item that your opponent can't finish. So Fool's Gold is his first ability. This is a really neat ability to see in action. He rolls out 3 money bags that pass through and damage enemy minions but stop at enemy gods. They slowing as they travel. Gods hit are damaged and intoxicated. We haven't seen a lot of the intoxication CC, so that's interesting. They drop a gold coin that Danzaburo or his ally gods can pick up. And no matter who picks it up, whether it's him or his ally, he gets 10 gold, right? And every time that happens, he gets 10 gold. So that's just another way to get even more gold in addition to the passive. When a money bag stops moving, it reveals to be an explosive, which detonates after a short delay. Subsequent hits of the money bag or explosions deal 20% damage. So this is going to probably be his main clearing ability. Because it's definitely got a wide range as well, because it has 3 money bags that kind of go out in a cone shape almost. They have explosion damage, they have an intoxication duration, and a cooldown of only 12 seconds. So pretty much his clear right there. Danzaburo's second ability is Alluring Spirits. He takes a swig of his sake bottle, which heals him very little bit. It does have scaling, but it's only 20%, so it's not a huge heal. But where's the cooldown? But the cooldown at max rank is only 12 seconds, so with a little extra cooldown in there, you could probably heal quite a bit from this over the course of the game. But then he hurls the sake bottle in front of him, dealing damage to enemies in the inner circle. The bottle of sake applies stacks to enemy gods in the area, slowing them, and upon reaching 3 stacks, taunting them. And there is no DR on this, so even if they've been stunned and intoxicated by a bunch of other people, the taunt will not have a diminishing return, which means it will always be the full duration of the taunt, which is 1 second. Enemies that take more than 30% of their max health are broken out early. Also, worth noting that the sake bottle can be broken. It only takes 2 hits to break it early, so you can actually break it before it even gets the taunt off. But that ability obviously does a lot. It heals you. It damages people that are hit by the inner circle. It slows per step with it's a stacking slow that stacks up to 3 times for 30% slow at max. Then it taunts for a whole second. The sake bottle can be broken, and then it has the cost and the cooldown. And the cooldown scales as it levels up. All right, Tanuki Trickery. This is one of the coolest abilities that I have seen. I really love this ability. This is sort of his... It's not really a movement ability. It's not an escape. But it's like they said in the game, it's kind of stealth, but not stealth. So Danzaburo creates a field where he moves faster, is slow immune, and takes less damage from basic attacks. This is just a circle around him when he creates it, right? And he'll be slow immune and takes less damage in there. Enemies in the field are also slowed. If he leaves the field, it disappears. So the circle will vanish, and he turns into a leaf, which is surrounded by a decoy of other leaves, and they all mimic his movement. Now, he can tell which one he is because it glows, but enemies will not be able to tell which leaf is him, right? In this state, his movement speed is increased, and he is slow immune and can pass through enemies. After a short delay from transforming, any hit from enemy gods, or if Danzaburo himself attacks, he will revert back. So it's just like an Izanami stealth or a Morrigan stealth. If you get hit or you take an action, it removes this disguise. But you do have like a 0.5 second, I believe they said in the patch notes show. Yeah, they said it was like 0.5 seconds. It's not on here, but they said it's 0.5 seconds that you won't, that won't happen to you. So it increases your movement speed. That scales up to 20%. The leaf movement speed, oh, that's for the circle. And then the leaf movement speed scales from 20 to 40%. So you're moving even faster when you turn into a leaf. You take reduced basic attack damage in the circle. The field duration will last 5 seconds. The leaf duration lasts 4 seconds. So you can get some good defense going here for up to 9 seconds, because if you can stay in that field up to 5 seconds and then you leave at the last minute there and you turn into a leaf, you got 4 seconds to run around and get away. And this has a long cooldown though, so you don't want to spam it too much. So this is a very neat ability, and it's very cool to see, particularly in the video when they showed as he moves around and the other leaves kind of dance around him, and it's just a very cool effect. So here's Danzaburgh's ult. He summons a magical leaf, which transforms into a large bamboo rocket. While you're preparing the rocket, you can aim within 180 degrees to lock onto enemy gods, or he can refire this ability to become the rocket. Once fired, the rocket will pass through and damage enemy minions, stopping at the first enemy god hit, damaging and stunning them while dealing 50% damage in a larger area. So, he has a rocket that he can lock onto a god and shoot, and it creates an area of effect that does 50% damage to anything in that area of effect. And it will stun the god that it hits. Or, instead of just locking onto the god and shooting it off, which does have plenty of range, it's got a nice range when it does that, you can also become the rocket, which gives you control of it. So, if you're trying to shoot this a long distance, and they have, say, a jump or a dash or something, the rocket's probably not going to hit because they're just going to get out of the way. But if you can control it, then you can follow them into the jungle and blow them up. But of course, when it blows up, now you're there, right? So it's going to be tricky when you use that ability that way. You don't want to put yourself in a vulnerable position unless you just turn into a leaf and fly away. So it does a lot of damage, from 300 to 540, plus 110% of your physical power. So that's a lot of damage. It has a stun duration that scales from 1 to 1.4 seconds, and a cooldown of 90 seconds, and a cost of 100, which is pretty normal. So this is the new god. I highly suggest going to watch the video on twitch.tv/SmiteGame of the update show. And that's it. I hope you guys appreciate me running through this real quick. This is kind of a video for people who are short on time and don't really want to watch the videos and don't really want to tune in to the Twitch thing. But I hope you appreciate it, and I'll see you later.